From Fanny and Schmo's Coffee Shop in the Eisenhower Library at 4300 North Oquito Avenue in Harwood Heights, it's time for Armchair Experts on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro. And now, here they are, live and in person and breathing on their own, Jim and Rich.
Nice ad lib, John. breathing without any devices.
Hey, Jim, it was your turn to bring the audience. I brought it last time.
I was trying to get guests turned us down.
You won't. Your fiance won't even show up.
I know. Well, she says I'm busy today, and
at least John, last time he had his helper with him, he is not even showing up this time.
Yeah.
Holy mackerel!
Yeah, I don't know.
So we got Alex as an audience of one.
Alex is here. Stephanie's just wandering around going, I'm not staying around here and being embarrassed by these two guys.
That's right.
What'd you do to your foot, Stephanie? Come over here. Come over. Come over here. Sit down. Sit down. Let's have our host here.
That's that. Well, that was the intent.
That was the intent. You might be the guest today. We're going an hour with you.
All right. I got nothing else to do. That's cool.
No, you have to make tuna. You have
to make tuna salad.
You have to make tuna salad. We both want tuna salad.
Alex can't make the tuna salad.
Nobody makes tuna salad like Stephanie makes tuna.
Secret recipe, secret tuna.
Jim, I'm going to let you kick this off because Dana had an idea
we're going to grill you.
How we're going to interview Stephanie, and you probably have a better idea on how to do it than I do. So,
First of all, we thank you for putting up with our nonsense
for coming. This is
and letting us come over here and do this with this vast audience we have here today. Alex is over there just going.
Just clap when you hear cool stuff happen. Yeah, there we go.
Thanks, Alex.
And John has his headset. And he's listening to old Franklin McCormick tapes and Clark Weber tapes from the old days of radio. He never pays any attention to us, unless we talk dirty, and then he dials the priest.
And then I leave.
And then you leave. Yeah, then you leave.
It's funny. Yeah. Well, I'm sure the audience will stroll in after they hear.
Yeah, you never know.
Somebody
may hear
the interesting content.
Yes.
It's always fun to come over here, and it's fun to hear about the things that you guys are planning and the things that you're doing.
Yeah, what we're up to.
What you're up to here, this quiet little place.
It's not always quiet.
Is now turning into a bakery and coffee shop empire.
It is. Yeah, we're taking over. Well, at least the northwest side, anyway.
So what are the plans? What's going on here?
What's going on?
Well, I know you're gonna be getting into farmers market season.
Yeah, so we're heading into the market season. We have the coffee shop here, but we are a full service bakery, which sometimes you forget when you're in the little coffee shop here at the library. So it's farmers market season, and we take the bakery on the road. We call it our world tour. We don't leave Chicago, but it's our world tour.
Norwich,
Harwood Heights, Chicago.
Portage Park.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So this week we will be at the Treasure Island Foods Farmers Markets. They have one. Let's see, where are we going to be? Wednesday, we'll be on Clybourne, 2121 Clybourne, in the Treasure Island Foods parking lot, and they're going to roast a pig, and our delicious baked goods will be there. That'll be fun. And then we have one on Thursday at their Broadway location, and that's all summer, Wednesday and Thursday. We take it on the road and go east towards the lake to Treasure Island Foods. And then we'll also hit every other Sunday. Portage Park has a farmer's market that we're participating in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the extent of our world tour. There's a few, if you see on our website, I'll plug the website.
By all means, get the website.
FannySchmoesBakery.com.
And you're on Facebook.
And we're on Facebook.
Where you post pictures of food porn.
Yeah, it's very tempting.
Yeah, it does.
Actually,
it's got me in here a couple of times when I've looked at things.
You know what's coming out of the oven. I try to post what comes right out of the oven. When I'm here and I know what's coming out of the oven.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
That's
see,
the point.
that you need to look at your Facebook page, which
You
you
do
never
the same thing on Twitter.
which you never do. Anyhow, you've got 9 friends.
You have a Facebook page?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got
I
like
didn't even know that.
he has like 9 friends.
I'll have to internet stalk you now.
It won't matter. It won't matter. He's forgotten his
Jim, can
password.
there were a couple things. I'll let you go on with this. But I didn't even think about this when I asked him. But our next guest actually says, and this is accurate, he is like a stepson to Rich Melman. And Rich Melman, they're very close. Dave has his job as I guess I could say this on the air. His connection, he's a Chicago police officer. That job came pretty much because of his connection with Rich Melman. And I'm thinking, boy, what a great mentor, or what a great person to have as somebody to bounce some of your ideas off. Than Richard Melman. And I'm sure that Dave, being the type of guy he is, would be glad to maybe at least put you guys together if that's something that you'd want to do. And I never thought about that connection. But the one question I had for you, and I'll let Jim go on with his line of questioning. A while ago, this isn't court, but yeah.
My line of questioning.
A while ago, 2-3 months ago, you told me that you had an offer in private business where you had been in the international shipping, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you had a 6-figure offer to come back into that business, and you gave that up because you know this is your dream. And I'm thinking to myself, if I was you, not that I would jump at that offer, but then you sit here, and there are times when people come in and they think you're just somebody who's working behind the counter. You're not the owner of the business. And to me, the way I am, if somebody sort of intimated that, and I knew I had an offer on the table for 6 figures, and I'm the owner of the business, I'd be starting to be, okay, wait a minute, I'm starting to see red here a little bit. But how do you handle something like that? You have such a great attitude.
Thank you. Honestly, sometimes it's easier to play the part of the cute girl behind the counter and not let them know I own the place, because who knows what they'll say to you when they might be complaining, and then I'm like, yeah, I'll tell the owner later. But no, honestly,
yeah, that's good. I like that.
Well, this was like when my ex-wife and I had an accounting practice. We used her name on it, but if there was a problem, no, I'm Mrs. Leon. I'm not Judy Yates. I'm Mrs. Leon.
I'll just pass
I'll let her know when she comes in.
Exactly. Exactly. It wasn't when I decided to leave my career. I had a career in international freight forwarding for 10 years, and it was nice. I had gotten to a very nice position, and I had a nice salary and all of that good stuff, and there wasn't any real fulfillment there. And it wasn't a spur of the moment decision to leave and then just come and do this.
So you didn't sit in your office all day and go, gee, I wish I could bake something.
Geez, I wish I was just making cookies right now.
That's right.
No, that's not how it went.
I want to make cookies.
And it's funny because ever since I was a kid, I would be like 10 or 11, and I would set up little fake stands in the living room and sell cookies to my family during football games. And
Wow.
My God, you were hustling then.
I was. I just really liked hosting, and I really liked being in charge of things. I do love to bake, but that's not my true passion. I'm very passionate about creating something and building something that is mine and that is my family's and that we can share with other people. Mm-hmm. And when you come into my shop, hopefully you feel like you're in my house and I'm baking for you, and that's what I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to have this place where people would come and they would eat stuff and they would hang out and they would.
It's like family. You walk in the door and she yells at you.
Yeah, you're just lucky I haven't made you do dishes.
When I didn't show up for about a month and a half when I got busy during tax season, I got yelled at.
You heard it then.
I really heard it.
So, but I always would talk about this. I would always talk about, even when I was in high school, this shop I'm going to have, and I would talk about it like it was a sure thing, and it really never was until I was in my 30s, and I realized if I don't try it now, I might not ever try it, and I just wasn't going to be happy, with that decision. I didn't ever want to regret not trying to do this, and now we've done it, and it's 5 years later, and it's very successful, and we're growing, and I love it. I don't think I could go back to number one, having a boss. Mm-hmm. I really love being my own boss.
It's difficult. I haven't had a boss in 5 years, and even during tax season, I never look at her. I just show up, and She gives me a check. And April 15th, I go, so long.
Yeah. I don't think I could go back to having a boss. But I just love the ability to create this in the way that I want and build it and see what happens. And I don't think that you can have that same experience necessarily when you're working for somebody else.
5 years from now, what do you see? Let's talk the 5-year. Let's talk the 5-year plan.
The 5-year plan. We're going to be in a larger space. I will never leave Eisenhower Library. We love Eisenhower, and I should say they are wonderful to us, and we have a great relationship with the library staff here and the library as an organization. So we will keep our shop here as long as they will have us, but we are growing out of it. And so I would love to, we will hopefully this year expand into a larger space. We have to do it soon because it's getting hard to bake in that little kitchen that we have, you know. So
when I've heard about like how many cookies you make during Christmas.
Yeah, 50, I think we did almost 20,000 cookies. Yeah, and it all came out of the library kitchen.
Wow,
so,
that's amazing.
You know, I don't know that we'll get through another holiday season just baking here.
So you're almost going to be forced to have another place to call home.
Yeah, so we would like to have a larger space where then we can offer more things. We'd like to offer more food, you know, sandwiches and breakfast and tasty brunch items. And
and the mastacholi.
And the mastacholi will be every day, and you know.
the 4-cheese mastacholi.
Wow, that is excellent.
Oh my God.
Very good. You got everybody beat with that stuff. Everybody.
We make a mean mastacholi.
Came in here that one day and your mother said, mastacholi's real good. Well, I just had lunch. Yeah, but you're going to have dinner.
My mother is the best saleswoman that I've ever encountered because you walk in and you have no choice.
That's right. That's right.
You know what I noticed though? Everybody, well, I shouldn't say everybody because you just hired somebody that was working for the first time yesterday. But even, you know, I'll have Alex wait on me in the morning, or sometimes when you're not here, and he'll, you know, I'll have a cup of coffee, and he'll say, you know, he'll ask if I want anything else. You know, there's always the follow-up. Is there anything else that I can get you?
Good customer service.
Yeah,
Thanks.
very good
Thank
customer
you.
service.
That's
So,
what we really, it's like I said, we just want you to be comfortable here. We want to make a space where everybody is comfortable and relaxing and they really like everything they get. you know?
I had to laugh yesterday when I came in here and I asked for one of the pastry pockets, and your mother said, and how about a nice freshly baked peanut butter cookie to go with it? And you immediately said, ooh, Mom, nice upsell.
yeah, that's for sure. That's excellent.
You know, it's kind of funny when you bring, like, I have this 10 years of corporate, you know, experience and sales experience, and I bring it into the little family business and tell my parents to upsell the customers. Like, it's just this really weird combination sometimes.
What was the hardest thing for you transitioning between the life of an employee and the life of the entrepreneur? What was the most difficult thing for you?
You know, I had always heard, and it doesn't matter how many times you hear it from other people, but they say, number one, that you have to do every single thing, and number two, you work harder and longer than everyone else does. And it didn't matter how many times I'd heard that until we were here and we were doing it, and every day was 14 hours long. And every day, you know, if my internet connection went down or the computer broke, I had to fix it. There's no IT department. I am the IT department, you know, or we have to pay the sales tax, and so I need
You're the accounting department.
I'm the accounting department, and then your day is 14 hours long, and you go home and you sleep, and you come back and you do it all over again. And we do that for years, you know, so it's like this, it's very exhausting, and you have to have this mental fortitude to see your vision and what you're going to do, and that it's not going to be forever, and to keep going. And so I can understand when you hear about small businesses, you know, kind of not making it past the first couple years. And, you know, I'd really like to see how much of that is that they didn't maybe have a good product, but more that they got tired and couldn't keep going, because the exhaustion, I think, is what that was the hardest to deal with.
You know what I was going to say, though, Steph? I mean, you definitely are mentally really tough, because you are putting that many, as you say, 12, 14-hour days together, you know, day after day.
Yeah.
The other thing, though, is and I won't go into the whole story, but I think I've mentioned this to you. I worked with a gentleman whose wife was a really good cook. And I never tried her cooking, but according to him, they bought a place that was a going concern, and it was a going concern. And a year after they bought it, they were out of business. And one of the reason I'm bringing that up is that I'm pretty sure that they probably, okay, you're a great cook, you know how to make the stuff, but there's no plan. And you definitely have a plan, which I am totally impressed with, because I don't think
Thanks.
many people in life have a plan in general, much less for
Yeah.
their business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting. One of the things that I have done was always accounting related, but one of the things I did, I was the administrative manager for Keller Williams franchise, a couple of
Oh,
Keller
okay.
Williams real estate franchises. And Gary Keller is one of the most interesting people I've ever run across, the founder of Keller Williams. He was told once that the reason his company wasn't growing was because he was running it.
Oh, jeez.
He said, "You have great vision." He said, "You have great vision. You just can't run your own company." And he realized that.
And he knew it, yeah.
And he knew it.
Yeah.
And that's when he found the people to run his company, and he became the chairman of the board and the visionary. Written great books about real estate sales. Written a great book called the One Thing you do well. That's one thing. That's one I have to read. That's one I have to read. If I
That's
find it,
interesting.
I don't know
Bring
if
it
there-
over to me.
Yeah, if there's books, that's the next thing I was going to ask. Are there any business related authors or people you might follow or look for as a mentor, even on paper?
There are, I kind of put together this weird little collection of things that I read and follow. I follow this SBA, the Small Business Administration,
Sure.
sends out lots of resources and emails like twice a week, and they highlight different CEOs or different educators, and they'll write interesting articles and give you advice, and I follow a lot of that stuff. There's one woman, her name is Allie Brown, that I follow. She did the same thing. She quit her job. She had a corporate job, and she quit, and she was doing like some marketing writing or something like that for small businesses, and that wasn't totally working, and she lost all of her money. So she had quit her job. She tried her business venture. It didn't work. She lost all of her money, and she was totally broke. And then she regrouped. She had the strength to regroup and kind of come up with a new plan and a new vision, and launched her second business, and now is like this crazy millionaire, and so she's someone that I follow, and I follow her, what she writes in her newsletters, and it's alliebrown.com, I think. You can follow her. So that's one that I do. But, I'm just always looking for interesting, even on, if I'm on Facebook or I'm on Twitter and I follow a hashtag of entrepreneur and I find a cool article, I'll read it and see what I can take from it regardless. I'm always looking for, if you think you know everything, then you're going to do a bad job
Yeah,
at whatever
that's
you're
true.
doing.
Yeah,
that's
So
true.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for advice from anybody or ideas or anything.
One of the things that Gary Keller always preached, and obviously it's very strong for real estate, is lead generation and know your numbers.
Yeah.
And he always taught you play red light, green light.
Huh.
If you can't afford it, it's red light. He said you always have to make sure that you've got the money to be able to take that next step.
Yeah.
And
And which is so hard to do. So this business, there's a funny story actually. People come up to me all the time and they say, if I had a bunch of money, I'd start my own business too. And then I laugh and laugh.
Yeah, there you go.
We didn't have any money when we started this. I had a Elvis bank. It was a plastic.
thank you very much.
2-foot tall bank with Elvis on it that I was collecting change in. And when we decided that we wanted to try this bakery thing, we were going to go do a farmer's market. And I marched into my bank holding the Elvis bank. You would think I would transfer this change into something less embarrassing. No, I didn't. I walked into the bank holding Elvis, and I put it on the teller counter, and they cashed it in, and I think it was $187. And that's what we used to go buy flour, butter, sugar, a table, a tent, and we set up at our first farmer's market just to see what would happen. And we sold out of everything we brought.
That's what those stuff. I'm obviously I don't have a crystal ball, but one of the reasons I think that you really will be successful is that's a great story. And how did you put it? You said you'd think that you'd be embarrassed, or but you know what? I think people who really make it, you're going to be embarrassed sometimes, and you just have to ignore it. Basically, I think,
Yeah.
and I think that is, if you have that ability to do that,
Yeah.
then you have a great chance of making it.
If you've met me, you know I'm unashamedly myself at all times. Like, I just can't help it.
You mentioned before you got home last night 7:30. Your husband got home at 7:30. You went to bed at 7:30.
Yeah, yeah.
How are things at home? How does your husband view what you do?
I have an amazing husband. He, sometimes I wonder how I got that, but I can be so charming.
I say that about the lady I'm going to marry.
Yeah,
What are you doing with me?
I'm sure, there's something to be, and I'll say this. I came home from work, when I was at my day job, and I said, I'm going to quit this job, and then I'm going to sell cookies for a living. And he didn't divorce me, so
He looked at you and went, "All right."
Okay, and ever since that moment, we did start this business while I was still working my day job. So I would work my day job, and then at night I would go bake all night, and I would never go home. And he was very supportive then, and he really believes in me, and he believes in what we're doing, and he loves the business, and he loves the bakery. And
He's a good guy.
And he's just a good guy all around. And so when I go to bed at 7:30 and I don't see him, he goes, "Okay, I understand. Or when I make him get up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday to make a delivery for me because I can't do it, he does it.
Mm-hmm.
And I give him coffee, and he understands. So it's
No
it's
cookies
weird
for
at
him, at
home.
least?
No, you gotta.
You
he's
got to draw
gotta
the
pay for
line. You
those.
got to draw the
Yeah.
line somewhere.
You can't just give it away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's great. He's really good. I don't know. We don't see each other all the time, but he really believes in what we're doing, and we know that there's some day where I'm gonna make millions and retire in like the Caymans. So.
Yeah, well, he's looking forward to
And,
that
he'll,
for
and
sure.
he'll be looking for cookies.
Right.
He'll-
Yeah.
It could be that Troy, the one thing I'm thinking as we're talking about Troy is that he's probably a guy who really took his vows totally seriously, and you don't get
Yeah.
that many people today that probably do that. So when he said, for better or for worse, richer or poorer, and everything else that you say, he meant it. So that's
did.
I think that's
there
the
weren't
way I
cookies.
see Troy.
There weren't
Yeah.
cookies in the vow, though.
But he knew I could bake going in,
Okay,
so
okay,
that was
all right.
probably.
So
good.
that was a
The
good
only
thing.
negative I can say about Troy, and this is probably on me, he plays 12-inch softball as opposed to 16-inch. And I was believing I was going to go out to see him play 16-inch last year, and here he was playing 12-inch.
That's true.
And then stuff doesn't show up, so I had nobody. Well, not that was a big thing, but not that I didn't have anybody to sit with.
Well, then there were no witnesses to you watching.
No
like
witnesses.
12-inch
I
softball.
swear to. Yeah. Well, okay. Let's get on. We're interviewing Steph. So
Okay.
you know what, Steph? Though Jim asked you a question about your 5-year plan.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you really got to finish it. I know you said that you want to be obviously in a different space because
larger
you're going to
space.
need to be.
Yep.
But what else is there? Are there going to be multiple spaces then away from
Dana
Eisenhower?
and I keep looking at the library down in Woodridge and think, boy, this would be a great spot for a Fanny Schmoes.
I would definitely love to have little Fanny Schmoes bakery cafes just everywhere. And I like the setup where we're a small cafe. So when I say we do need a bigger space to bake out of, that is true.
Mm-hmm.
But then I see little places inside other libraries, and I see little places inside of train stations, like. Everyone in Edison Park is asking, and I know, guys, you need a bakery. We're trying,
Mm-hmm.
So if we
Oh,
could
yeah,
be...
it's right there.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
right in the train
yeah.
station.
Did you say the train station?
Yeah, Edison
Yeah.
Park.
Oh, that'd be really nice.
Over there, and even in Norwood, I know Norwood, they need some. So we like this area. I'm talking about the northwest side. I'm from the northwest side. That's where we're looking. That's where I'd like to stay. But we would like to branch out and be everywhere. We have great coffee, we have great baked goods, we want to share it with everyone, so.
You know what amazes me? We all knew the bakery good. After a short while, we knew the bakery goods were good, and the coffee is good. Although I'm not a connoisseur of coffee, but you know what? When you started doing things like mastacholi, and now we have the tuna salad sandwich today,
yeah.
and I'm like,
roasted
seriously. Now, okay, I'm
And the-
Italian.
and
My
the-
mother
and the
made
soups.
mastacholi.
Soups.
I've been to a lot of places and had mastacholi. You easily have the best mastacholi I've ever tasted.
Thank you.
And
And
so,
Thank
you
you.
know,
I love the-
I was going to
yeah.
request lasagna next, but I figured that's a big
No,
job.
I mean,
so.
I do make a mean lasagna too.
The mastacholi is just incredible,
Thank
and I
you.
still laugh that one day when you came in here and you'd been running around and you had a bowl of something and you just sat there and went, "Boy, I make good stuff."
It's funny because you'd think that we would be tired of the things that we make.
I
And
can't say what you really said that
I know.
day because John
Yeah,
would
we
be
had-
on the phone to the priest.
Yeah, no, I won't tell you. It's funny, and sometimes you just have to motivate yourself, right? When no one else, sometimes there's no one else around to pick you up. And I'll taste a cookie and go, dang, these are good cookies. Now, we've been making these since I was 5 years old. I mean, over 30 years I've been eating these cookies. but
Wow.
It still surprises me. I won't eat a scone for a while, and then I'll take a bite of one and go, yeah, man, these are so good. So if I'm not tired of it and we eat it every day, I hope that's a good sign.
That is a good
and
sign.
that's a good sign.
Usually, don't they say cooks or whatever, bakers, cooks, whatever, don't usually get into eating their own products,
Not so
probably because they're
much.
just tired from making them and the heck with it, let somebody
And
else eat it.
it's-
But that's
it's-
good. That's a good sign.
It's
really.
so funny. I have a guy I've done his tax return for 10 years or more, and he's French. Jean was an executive chef in the Marriott chain for a number of years, and he was executive chef in Oak Brook, and he was really hoping to get Michigan Avenue, but there was a younger guy, and Jean finally got pushed out.
Oh.
And I asked him, I said, I watch all Top Chef and all these other things. Don't you find that stuff interesting? Don't you want to compete with that? And he looked at me and he goes, "Oh, Jim, I am just too old." And he branched into an interesting career after that, after he finally decided to get out of the restaurant business. He's driving an 18-wheeler.
That's
Wow.
a real change. Holy mackerel.
Wow, talk about career change.
There you go.
That's funny.
Well, I'm thinking that it's somewhere down the road, even though you passed on that six-figure deal that you had, that you probably are going to outpace that by quite a bit.
Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be a real nice
It-
thing. Although,
And
you know what?
you know what it really comes to? It comes to the quality of your life and how happy you are
Yes.
with what you're doing.
Yes. Yes.
And you can make all the money in the world, and you sit there and you go, "Good Lord, I'm miserable."
Right.
I went a number of years ago to one of those Success Weekend seminars that they had in Rosemont, and there were a couple of people that I wanted to hear. George Foreman spoke, who was very interesting
Yeah.
and funny.
Yeah. He's a riot. Yeah. I've listened. I've heard
You
him.
know, what's his name? Tony Roberts.
Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins, rather. Tony Robbins. 90 minutes with Tony Robbins is...
Yeah, it's interesting. Did he make you
Interesting.
walk on fire? Or
No. But, you big room of people, 90 minutes with him, and you're all fired up.
Nice.
But the one that he really came because they had his book there, and it was interesting, and he was the most god-awful speaker, and the most god-awful presentation was Donald Trump.
Oh, I don't know that I could have sat through that.
And I mean, he came out and he said, people ask me if I'm happy. I go, I don't know. I guess I am. Maybe I could be happier. I don't know. I make a lot of money. I don't know if I'm happy. And people are going up to the counter and going, can I have the book? I don't want to listen to this crap anymore.
Right.
And they finally, no, you have to wait until it's over. And then people are standing there and they're getting mad. And they finally said, well, go down in the lobby. We'll have the books down there. You can leave. And people were leaving in
And they
droves.
left. Oh,
Jim, I think a good sign, though, of what is going to eventually make a successful person in whatever field they're in is the whole time we've talked this stuff here, she never said her motivation. I mean, obviously she wants to make money, but she said, you know what, her goal was to to have a place that was sort of like her kitchen, or
Yeah.
sort of like having people in her
Yeah.
home. And from everything I've read, anybody who makes it in any field, say if you're a ball player, you start out because you love playing the game.
right.
Your thoughts, probably the guys who actually make it, their thoughts aren't being major leaguers or whatever. Their thoughts are, hey, I just like playing baseball.
That's right.
And your thoughts are probably the thoughts that are eventually going to lead you to success, because they're, if money is what you're shooting for, you probably end up really not doing what you intend to do. But
Right.
your goal is something different, and then I think the money will come. So
And I'm a firm believer in if you follow what your gut is telling you to do. My gut, yeah, I loved working in international trade. I really did. But my gut was telling me I wasn't going to move boxes around the world for the rest of my life. And if you ignore what your insides are telling you to do, regardless of the money or regardless of station, you're always going to feel an uneasiness. You're not going to have a satisfied feeling. And so I guess that's what I let guide me in, especially, even when I'm doing this and we need to make a decision, or the roller coaster of business ownership is on the downhill, That's what I think about. You let your guts guide you. And then if you feel comfortable with those decisions, with what your gut's telling you, you're going to wind up just fine. And I've been just fine, and I'm happy.
And that's the most important thing.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You know what? We appreciate the fact that we feel so comfortable here. We appreciate the fact that you have opened up your shop to us a couple times to do this. I apologize. We brought our own audience last time. We didn't do that this time, but
We
you
were
know what?
trying for guests. We had like 3 other people turn us down.
Yeah. So and actually,
You were going to be on the list. You were going to be first, but we had like 3 others turn us down.
I know our other guest is here because he stuck his head in the door while we were talking, and we were successful in getting one other person for today's show. But Steph, you know what? I know that you are going to be totally successful with this. I think you
you.
already are
Yeah.
in a lot of respects, but everything that we would wish for you financially is going to also come.
Thank you.
And that is if you don't keep hiring more and more people. No, I'm kidding. I think that's a great thing.
All kinds of crazy
It's
people.
good to see. Here we have Stephanie Rybant, who's got a coffee shop, cafe in Eisenhower Library, and she probably employs more people well, I mean, she's starting to get there with the payroll.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I have a team of 7.
a team of 7.
Took me.
That's good.
I
though.
never thought I'd see the day, but we have a team of 7.
Hey,
right.
7 times how many other small businesses out there?
There you go.
Ends up to be a lot of
There you
people.
go.
So we
Yeah,
congratulate you on that.
Yes, we do, and we wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you, and thank you for coming. I love that this is happening here in our shop. I
Thank you.
really do. Thank you for coming here.
No, go
Appreciate
make
it.
tuna salad.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Steph.
Stephanie.
Appreciate it.
Stephanie Rybent.
She wasn't as nervous as the last time she was.
No,
here.
no,
She must
she
have.
did a fine job.
You must have got to know each other better.
That's right. Let's
Now,
take
I
a,
saw.
let's
we'll
take a break. Let's take a break.
Yes. I saw Dave out there.
From Fanny and Schmo's Coffee Shop in the Eisenhower Library at 4300 North Oquito Avenue in Harwood Heights, Illinois, you are listening to Armchair Experts with the WRHS-FM sports announcers Jim Leon and Rich Massaro on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS-FM Norwich on Wednesday, May the 13th, year of our Lord, 2015. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM, Norwich, Illinois. And now, back to Jim and Rich.
Good timing there, Richard. You just managed to go outside, find a guest, bring him back, and all during the station break.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened, but it's our guest actually, knowing this guy, I'm not that surprised. We have really a good friend of mine, Dave Rule, somebody I've known for a long time, and just in terms of giving Dave an intro, I first knew Dave when he played 16-inch softball, and that was quite a few years ago. I hate to think that, Dave. It was already that many years ago, but he's a...
You both started very young.
No, Dave started very young. I didn't. But Dave is a Hall of Famer. Was how many? Now, what is it? Was it a year or two ago that they elected you or elected into the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, last year I was elected in last year, Rich.
Okay, so he's been in for about a year, and also though Dave runs a very successful. And Dave, you know what? I keep forgetting the name of the girls' basketball program that you run.
Oh, Hoops Express Flash.
Hoops Express Flash, and a very successful basketball coach, a guy that, you know what, I was talking with my daughter just before we left, and she was with you for a very brief time, but she loved you, and you know what, I was going to say, I wasn't intending to start off this conversation, Dave, with basketball, but the one thing I was going to say, what I wanted to mention to people, because I love this, you go through a course to become a regular certified high school coach. And Dave is telling me that he went through that course. And he said I think he said there's 3 different types of coaches. Now, I take it from there because I think maybe you'll know what I wanted you to talk about, because I think what you had told me is that of the 3 different types of coaches, you were the one that you weren't supposed to be.
Yeah. There's 3 different types. Yeah, the one that's gonna definitely be the company guy. And there's the one that kind of sits in the middle, and then there was me, which we teach strict discipline, and I started the program 11 years ago, and I was just like anything else. I played in high school and college, but it didn't really have a lot to do with coaching. It didn't really have that much of a factor in it. So I had a couple of my girls were playing, my daughters, and kind of said, let me take a shot at this. And we ended up, after 11 years, we trained and had over 1,000 kids. We have currently 14 players playing in college, and 75% of our players have gone on as freshmen to sophomores or varsity. We've had kids as far away as Northwest Indiana, Kankakee, Garner, which is 80 miles one way, Gurnee, and it's just the training and it's the discipline. It's kind of the old school type of basketball, and a lot of the parents, I think, it's most people don't think that parents want their kids to be, really strict discipline that, but we find those kids now, and they're a select group, and we train them and maximize their growth. So we've had a lot of success, and it's been a great challenge for me. The 11 years we won 24 AU state titles, 2 AU national championships. But I think you need to always just keep reinventing yourself. So for 11 years, I'm going to be handing the program over to Nancy Oliver, who's been with me a couple years, and she's a well-qualified candidate. She's been doing a great job with me. So I'm on to some different things now.
The parents react well to the discipline. How do the kids react? Do they say, "Oh my God, you're too tough. I can't stand this"?
That's a good question. We hand select who comes in. So most basketball programs that are out there, they'll take kids and they'll just take anybody, and they want the money and such. But we don't recruit. One of the unique parts about what we've done for 11 years is they find us. We don't find them. We've never had open tryouts or anything like that. So the distance that they've traveled and come from,
they want it.
Yeah, they would watch our teams play and say, "Boy, we want to get in on that." But I think a big problem now, or really in the 11 years that I've been doing it, is they play too many games. So we've always focused on the training part of it, and 85% of what we do in the gym has always been to get them ready for high school and college, and we've had great success with that. So we don't run them out on games and burn them out, but we train them, and we have a set system that we've been running that I developed 11 years ago, and we've stayed with that system, and all the coaches in the program stay with that, and everybody's been happy for the most part. Yeah, for the most part.
Dave, on this show, we talk a lot of sports, and a lot of times Jim and I get into conversations about coaches, what makes them successful. And what I was trying to explain to Jim, because Jim hadn't met you, I said, Dave can he can get really loud. He can get he's he's tough in every respect. And But I think what the girls understand, though, is that he actually cares about them. And one of the comments you had made to me at one point in time is that you're not only preparing them to play better basketball, but for, hopefully to be successful down the road in careers as they mature and get to be women.
You are 100% correct. Yeah, the first thing, I'll give you my secret why it's worked for 11 years. One of the main things has been, and Rich hit right on it, the girls, when you coach girls, and we coach boys also, but when you coach girls, they have to trust. They definitely have to trust you. So if you've got some older white guy yelling at you all the time, there's not going to be a whole lot of trust there. But when you have personal conversations with them, find out what school they go to, what subjects they like, personal things in their life, and they share that with you, when you go back on that floor and you're teaching them and you're hard on them, there's instant respect and they trust. So that's how we've been able to get the results, and the coaching staff, myself starting with it, to get the most out of them. And we talk to them, as Rich made a good point, they're going to compete their whole lives. And when you're competing not just on the basketball floor, but you're competing for boyfriends, valedictorians, to be a valedictorian.
Jobs, anything.
Everything, exactly. And these are the ingredients that, not just the basketball. Basketball brought us together, but we really focus on the discipline and the self-esteem for girls, that they're feeling good and they're ready to take those challenges and not be afraid of things. And we're very proud of what we've accomplished.
Rich, I know Tara played for
Yeah,
Dave.
sure.
What did she take away from her experience with Dave?
She loves Dave, seriously, and I'm surprised that she's not sitting here right now. I think she probably is in school, so she probably would be here otherwise because she just want to see Dave. But I think, I guess the way I would look at it, and I'll just use Tara as in general type of a thing, not her specifically. But people will say kids have changed, and Dave can verify this, or you can disagree with it, Dave. But I don't think kids have changed all that much. I think kids still want to be the best they can be. I still think they want to be challenged. And I think the short time that she was with Dave, she felt that, and she appreciates that. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, parents have changed. I think it's
Right.
the
Parents have changed.
Parents
right?
have changed, and
Right.
you don't fault them. I mean, everybody wants what's best for their kid. But the first thing we tell the parents when they come in their interview, when they come in to try to get in here, is you have to give us full trust on the basketball side, and not coaching from the sidelines. When you get in the car with them, it has to be always positive, even if they didn't do well. And we give them strict things and guidelines they have to follow. And if they don't, then there's things that'll happen, and eventually they'll be dismissed. We've only had per year 5% of players leaving. On the average for traveling programs, it's been like 25-30% will leave a program and go to another one. But we've been investing, as we tell the parents, we invest in your family. We don't just invest in your daughter or your son or the player. We invest in your family and want to take them all the way through. So there has to be trust there. But I think parents in general want what's best, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a parent too, but you really have to give, full control to us of what we do, and we do it very, very well.
I have to say, I always think, now I'm not comparing Dave necessarily, but people will say who are the really great coaches, and I'm thinking about personality-wise, what you bring to the table, Dave. And they'll say, in Jim or Jim over here, we'll talk about it, and a guy like Vince Lombardi will come up, and everybody thinks of Vince Lombardi as a tyrant, but I look at him a little bit different in the sense that his players knew that his goal was to make them the best player they could be. So they could put up with a lot because they knew he was trying to do something for them, basically. And I think your players probably look at you in a similar fashion.
It's very true, and I think the one thing that we do and always have done is hold them accountable. And I think that's the one issue.
And that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and it doesn't happen because these other, basketball is basketball. We're such a high level where you look and say Hoops Express Flash players have come in here, they've gone up, they've had success. Kids have gone, we've got kids playing at Duke and DePaul and some of the top programs that have gone through our program, and it's holding them accountable. And nothing changes if we have a player that just makes a freshman B team that never would have made it, and we took them in and developed them there. We're just as happy as if we took a kid and they're at Duke now playing, or DePaul. It's everything in between. We maximize that player, but holding them accountable, parent trust and child trust is the key, and it's worked. So
I have to say, when I heard that Dave had, because I think Billy Barzowski or somebody like that was the first one who told me that you were doing the basketball coaching and instruction. But and that, not that it surprised me, but I didn't know that that was a direction that you were headed in. But it shouldn't have surprised me because let me segue a little bit here. Knowing, I don't know, Dave, when did I meet you? You were still a really young guy. Were you 17, 18, 19, something like that?
I was 18 when we met each other, and then I started playing with you when I was 19 on the Flyers softball.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And what I was going to say is I always think of Dave as one of the most competitive guys I've met, and in a really good way, and not in your. You'll do anything in the world to win, including cheat. But it just in the terms of, I would say this, from my point of view, Dave came and played with us. He was already an established player. He was playing with a very good team at the time. He came to play with us at a Friday night league. And from my point of view, I appreciated it because I was running the team. But Dave gave us every bit of what he had, the same way he would give his main team everybody had. And Dave was a popular player. A lot of teams asked him to play at that time, and he was playing with as many of them, I think, as he could. And he gave all of them as much as he could. So I really respect him in terms of being a competitor. But let's get into the softball part of it, Dave, because I know we only have a certain amount of time. But the one question I was going to ask you. You started playing very early. Who was the first guy who saw that ability that was there and asked you to play?
That would have been Tom McClellan, Oscar. I was playing in a high school basketball league, and he had seen me play and came up to me and just said, "You ever play softball?" And I said, "Nah, a little bit." And with some of my friends in the neighborhood, he said, "Well, here, why don't you give me a call and why don't you give this a try?" And I ended up going with the Meisterbrow Tigers at the time with Frank Holland, and I went for a tryout on a Sunday in Rolling Meadows, and they liked what they seen, and Frank said to me, and I'll never forget, he said, "Kid, we're going to take a shot on you. We're going to take a chance on you and hope that you're a diamond in the rough." And that was the greatest opportunity for me to develop, because playing, at that time I was 17, I was just turning 18. You didn't play major ball, as you know. Most kids didn't come up that young, maybe Mikey Lopez and a few others, but I was in a very fortunate position to get started early, play at a very high level, and learn from really veteran players. And so that really was Oscar and Frank Holland.
Who was one of your big mentors, influences on you? Or name several of them.
Yeah, the biggest would be Rich Melman, Let Us Entertain You. He's been like my second father, and I played 8 years for Rich. Oscar and Frank Holland, the two I just mentioned, were huge influences for me. And Rich sitting over here has been a great influence for me also. He's been wonderful. So to name four, those four right there have been very influential. Yeah.
Dave, I always wondered. Jim Matthews out here is an old softball guy, and he's.
I thought he was just an old guy.
He's an old pain in the butt most of the time, but he's very good friends with Willie Simpson and Richie Simpson, Al Check, and Ronnie Elysiak are all good friends of his, and played some ball with them. And I always tell him, and this is just an aside, I said, "You must have been a lot better player," because he tells me he was just mediocre. I said, "Those guys didn't have mediocre guys on their teams, no matter where they played."
They didn't even go to the bar with mediocre guys, so he had to be good.
But
that's why Matthews made it.
One of the things I was going to ask is that
you bought a lot of rounds.
Yeah, you bought. That's a good way to look at it. What do you think about Willie Simpson? You think of Al Check. Was there anybody that you were ever connected with that way? Dave Rule always played with so and so.
Well, yeah, I mean, Willie and Al, first, I was fortunate to see them. My dad got me started watching, so we would go watch some of the tournaments with the Cats and some of the other ones that were around, and he would take me when I was like 10, 11 years old. So I was aware of who they were. I didn't know their names, but I knew who they were. I would say, a couple people that had great influence for me was Wally Filkins, Dave Bischoff, Bobby McClellan when I was with the Whips.
Great guys.
Yeah, and they just, it was when you were 2021 and playing, obviously you were nervous a little bit, and even though I felt I belonged there, we had to prove it every day, but they just made me feel so comfortable. So it'd be like in the 6th inning, we were down a couple runs, I would come up and they'd say, try something new, don't worry about it. Try something new, get yourself better. We're going to pick it up and we'll win this game. And it just gave you all the confidence in the world. And it probably was one of my best years that I had when I played with the Whips. So those guys were very influential.
I was going to say, I can remember that, and I don't remember the year, but the Nationals were in Mount Prospect that year. You were with the Whips, and the Whips were playing, actually a bunch of the guys who had played for me, but they weren't the Flyers, they were called the Inmates. And I think the game was to get into the Final Four or the championship game. And you guys are losing to these guys, and I think it was multiple runs. It wasn't like a one-run game, but it was 2-3 runs. And it's getting late. It was about the 6th inning, I want to say, and you let off, and I'm thinking to myself, Dave is going to will himself on here. He's going to get on some way. And not only did you get on, but the way you got on threw these guys off so bad that they just totally blew up, and you guys end up winning the game. But do you remember what you did that time?
No,
You don't?
Thanks for bringing that up. I don't remember.
He actually, what we would call, he chopped the ball. Now,
Okay.
a chop is a controversial thing, and
Yeah.
technically a chop is one thing, and a lot of guys will mistake it for another. But Dave hit the ball, so it took a nice high bounce, and him being very fast beat the ball out. And these guys went totally crazy. I mean, they were like, he chopped him, this is the
I
reaction
do
you
remember
get.
now, yeah.
And he chopped that ball, and so it threw them totally off. And the next thing you know, the team that Dave played on, the Whips, they took that opening and they went with it, and they ended up beating these guys, and they went on, I believe, to win the Nationals that year. The thing I was going to say about Dave also is that in the time that I've been involved in softball, and there was I'm sure teams that were good prior to that, but the Bobcats, the Whips, Sports Station, Bud 45s, and now probably Windy City, and I don't know if I think I got them all.
Sobeys.
The Sobeys. Those were the dominant teams in softball. And Dave, out of those half a dozen I named, played for 2 of. I missed Lettuce. Lettuce was one. So out of the half a dozen dominant teams that anybody who's connected with the game could name, Dave has played with 2 of those clubs. So that's the type of player that he is.
Well, I appreciate that. The interesting thing is I'm 47, and I always wished I was born 10 years before, because that was the era I felt most comfortable with, like on the softball with those guys. And I think that was the best softball. I really do. I think when you talk about the Cats and the Sobeys and that whole era, I really wish I could have been playing. I was just born a little later, but that would have been the ultimate challenge, to be playing. To be playing with those kind of guys, and they just made sense to me. I don't know. I think I was just born at the wrong time. Guys like you too. I like all you guys.
I'll tell you what though. Here I could tell you the Dave rule. Now, when you had a guy, I was fortunate enough for a couple of years to have Dave Rule and Mike Lopez, who are both Hall of Famers, and those 2 guys. Now, our players were good players. Don't get me wrong, but when you have Dave and Mike go out on the field with the rest of your guys, your guys become that much better, because it's like they're walking around with a big red S on their chest now, because we're playing with. They knew who these guys were, and they respected what they could do. And but Dave and Mike, I would say both of those guys were probably as humble guys as you could want to have on your team. And great leaders, great players, and we always did. I remember, I think when you started playing with us, Dave, from the time you started playing with us till the time you finished playing with us, we never lost a game. I believe we were undefeated, and I don't think you ever lost a game playing with us.
I don't remember. I just know it was so much fun, and there's so much more to playing. And I think the one thing when I played with you, Rich, was I think your style of coaching, and managing was a perfect fit for me. So, I mean, we hit it off right away, and you challenged me, and there were different things that I was able to do with you that I wasn't able to do with some of the major teams I was playing at, because I was kind of young and not really a leader. So when you were challenging me to be a leader and be like, get these guys going, come on, and I was able to kind of start doing that. So that really helped in my progress as a player as I advanced. And and kept moving forward as a top player. So I appreciate it.
I tell you, you were such a weapon, though, Dave. This guy, he would, you know what, your normal shortstop in a 16-inch game, I mean, anybody who has seen a 16-inch game knows where they play. Well, Dave, I'm going to say, and I could be wrong, maybe off a little bit, but Dave was 10 steps onto the outfield grass because he had such an arm that a hard one-hopper, I mean, he'd throw that guy out immediately. But what I would always say to Dave is that's impressive, but there are other guys with good arms. But as I thought about it over the years, what was even more impressive on those not as sharply hit balls that you have to read right off the bat, Dave made those plays as well, because that is even, okay, when you're playing back and you get a hard one-hopper to the point where he was playing on the outfield grass, yeah, that's a really good play. But to see the ball that's not hit as well and be able to recognize that and charge it and make the play is even more
That's
impressive.
more impressive.
And Dave was always able to do that, and he just was. I don't know if you were born with it or you learned it, Dave, but you were just a really excellent player in that respect.
Were you strictly shortstop?
I played short for about my first 6 or 7 years, and then I moved to short center and played some third. But yeah, I was primary shortstop.
Primarily shortstop?
But I probably had more fun playing short center when I made the switch. We brought in, when I was with the Lettuce team, we brought in another shortstop, and they asked if I would move. And of course I said I would. And it was such a new challenge, and I was able, it was like, you play short all the years, and I enjoyed it, but it was a lot of fun to have the new challenge as a short center. And just learning it, But I think the thing that I was able to do, I'd like to say, I mean, I did jump very high, and I was very fast, and I had a strong arm. But I think what I did was I studied certain hitters like that we would be playing, and just get a feel of what they're doing a lot with their hands and their feet. And if you're at a tournament and you're there for 7-8 hours, you'll go watch the other teams play. And I was just looking for tendencies, anything that would help me defensively.
Okay. What was the biggest challenge going from shortstop to short center? Or did you just kind of pick that up by reading the other players and following them?
Yeah, the first baseman didn't like it too much because I was closer to him, and I'd just whip it at him. And a little closer. Yeah, I think positioning, where I should go and stay, because it's so different. You would have to cover the bag, and you'd have people coming in to take you out. So those were some of the things I think with positioning was the key. But yeah, it took me a little bit of time, and Bobby Russ Sr. Was a guy that helped me with that, and Tommy Duddleson on making the switch, and it took about a half a season, and I was good to go.
Okay. I was going to ask you, Dave, you talked about knowing the players and reading the players. I can recall a game at Indian Road Park, and we were playing the Wolves. And the Wolves had, and I don't think I ever knew this guy's first name, but the guy's name was Coogan, and he'd played with Eggs and all those guys on some of their teams, and he was a cutter, and he led off, and he hit a ball right down the line. Now Dave's playing shortstop, and Dave ran from his position, and he got to the line, and as he was crossing the line, he caught the ball one-handed. Okay. And Coogan got to first base. He's not watching where the ball went. He's figuring he got a hit. And our first baseman, Pete Sajkowski, says, "You're out." And he says, "What do you mean? What are you trying to pull? I'm not out. I got a hit." And he says, "No, he caught the ball." And he wouldn't believe it. So finally they had to call Mike LeVar, who was umpiring the game. "No, you're off. Get off first base. You're out." I mean, he could. Dave, the catch he made was he's running full speed, one hand out, grabs it with one hand, and this guy wouldn't believe it, but he was out, no question. And that's the instinctive part. What I'm saying is he knew what this guy's MO was. He knew what he liked to do, and he was ready to make the play.
Well, I'll say this. I don't remember it, but I'm glad I did catch it. I think the thing was, the thing about 16 softball that I don't think people from other states can understand, or even outside of the city for the most part, is it's a neighborhood. And when you're playing neighborhood guys, there's more incentive, to get them out and just play harder and beat them. And, I think that's what the great part of 16 softball was, the neighborhood guys. And you knew people, you knew each other. A lot of guys had city jobs and worked in municipalities and stuff. I'm a Chicago policeman. So, you'd known each other for a long time. So you weren't going to let him get it if that was possible. So I'm glad I got him.
Dave, it would be not an interview with you if we didn't bring up your relationship, and you referred to it, your relationship with Rich Melman. And I was telling everybody here prior to you coming in, I said, you know, I think you've said before, you're like a stepson or a second son to Rich, or a third son, because I think he's got sons. But just if you could talk a little bit about your relationship with Rich.
Yeah, before I get with that, I think I've had some good people look out for me since I started playing. They saw I had an enormous amount of talent, maybe a little undisciplined in the beginning, but Frank Holen, Eddie Zollner were two guys that really, I called them my handlers when I first started, and then those
Eddie Zollner, legend.
Yeah, Eddie.
Absolute legend.
Eddie just passed this year, so
yeah.
we're sad about that. But what a wonderful guy with Frank Holen, who ran the Taggers. But I moved to Lettuce, and the thing was, at that time I was playing for the Whips and playing shortstop, and really we were the best team. And Rich had decided he wanted to put a team together and play on the competitive level. One thing you know about Rich Melman is that he's not going to lose. He's going to put something together, and it's going to be a winner. I had a couple conversations with him. Didn't know him really that well. I was about 21. And he was trying to get me to move from the Whips, and that was the last thing I wanted to do. I was so happy with them. But I sat down with him one evening and at one of his restaurants with him, and we talked for 3 hours. And one of the things he had told me was, he said, you know, this is what I'm doing. I know you don't know me, but I can promise you your whole life will be better, and this will be good for you, not just playing softball. And first thing I did was I went back and talked to my mom, because it was a big decision, and it affected the Whips too, with losing, you know, their shortstop. So what ended up happening was I decided to take a chance and go play for him. And really, 25 years later, he's been like my second father. He's done things for me and just supportive of me and been there for me, that it was the best decision I ever made. And he's really looked out for me, and yeah, I love him to death.
You know what? I know that. Are you still playing a little bit of softball with his sons, Dave?
I am. I'm playing with RJ and Jared, and they're both in the restaurant business. They're both partners and managing partners with Lettuce Entertainment. We play on Tuesdays. Actually, tonight we start our first game down at UIC, and that's a lot of fun, because we brought some guys in from the neighborhood here, and to play, and playing with them is a lot of fun. They're like my brothers. I mean, I've known them since, you know, they've been like 4 and 8 years old, 4 and 7 years old.
Dave, I wonder.
Let me sneak in, since I see we're gonna run over. I'll do the station. I'll do the station ID, John. This is WRHS FM 89.7 Norwich.
Okay, so we're
legal.
We're legal. Okay, Dave, when I sit, and not so much to Jim, because Jim played some softball, but say I talk to this Jim here or other people who weren't in the game, and I don't know if they understand as much. I learned so much, not just about the game of softball, but about a lot of things from being involved in softball. I just wanted to know if you felt similar.
In regards to?
I'm just, you know what, okay, this is, people say, okay, 16-inch softball, it's a bunch of guys who like to drink beer and go out and hit a big ball around.
Isn't that what it is? I just remember the Prudential Insurance team.
When you play at the level Dave played at, or, you with the Flyers, you know, we played some major ball, and that is an undertaking in itself to try to run something like that. So what you're talking about here, Jim, and what I always what people don't understand is you're asking 10 or more guys to come out on a very regular basis. Because Dave, how many games would you say you played in a year when you're playing major ball?
Oh, on average for a major team, 80. You pay 80, 85.
So you're talking about 80, 85 games. You're talking about probably every weekend of the summer. You're talking about probably at least 2 or 3 nights during the week, if not more. So you get this bunch of guys who are not being paid in most instances, and you know they're coming out at various times of the evening. They're coming from their jobs, so you're getting them to do that. Okay, so there's some persuasion there. If you go to an out-of-town tournament, you got to make sure that everybody travels, that there's lodging. You're dealing with personalities. You're dealing with people who, you know, I remember we had a guy named Vince Gazaldo. You remember Vince?
I sure do.
Vince was a great guy, but Vince would come up to me and said, Rich, he says, you know, the great thing about this team, he says, I play at a team at Grant Park. He says, I bat third and play shortstop. He says, on this team, I bat 10th and play second base. Now, some guys are okay with that, but there's other guys who that's maybe not as okay, so you have to deal with that. So you're dealing with a lot of real-life situations, even though it's 16 is softball. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you'd have sometimes 2,000 people at some of the games out at Forest Park, on the Sunday, and so it was competitive. I mean, it played at a high level, and it was all the difference was speed. So from A ball to majors, B ball, it was just speed. That really was all the difference, and more power. That's what I saw through my years of playing. I think one thing that happened while I was playing was Rich Melman, who dearly loves the game and is passionate about it. He was able to start the Pro League, and it was on, I believe, Sports Channel, and we'd have the Sunday night broadcast.
Yeah.
That brought some, I think,
legitimacy and publicity to the game.
Absolutely, and that was really fun because we all felt like mini stars and stuff and celebrities, but there was great competition. I think, all of us, I know myself, I'm still, 47, I still compete and want to compete. I'll probably compete till I'm 80 if I'm lucky enough to live that long, but you find something, and softball was a great way to fill that void or gap of when, you started getting a little bit older, so it was a lot of fun.
Is there one game that you remember over all of them that really sticks out in your mind more than anything? Or is it all kind of a blend after a while? Since Rich has reminded you of things and you've...
Yeah, I think, there is. There's probably one. We were in Marshalltown, Iowa, and I was with Lettuce, and it was our, I think, first or second national title that we won, but we played, and it was the last game, and it was a tie ball game. Bobby Lopez got a triple, and it was a tie game with 2 outs, and Bobby was on third. And I was going to bat, and Johnny Kelleher came in the on-deck circle. So they ended up intentionally walking me, and then when Johnny came in the on-deck circle, they said no. They were going to make me bat. So Johnny's the greatest hitter of all time, in my opinion. So I had to go back from first and bat, and I took that very, very personal. Not to say because I would pitch to me too instead of Johnny, but I took it very, very personal and hit a liner to center, and we won the game and won the national title. So if there was one game, but that would be about it. But it was just such fun. All the games, whatever level I played, and all the teams I played, I think. And Rich and I have had this discussion. When I've been retired for about 11 years, playing about 12 years on the majors, I think you miss the friends. You miss the camaraderie with the guys and hanging out with them, and that's what I miss the most. That's definitely what I miss the most.
Mm-hmm. I have to say the one other thing that I wanted to mention as we talk here is that when I first met Dave, we would go out maybe after a game and we'd talk and be serious conversation. And Dave always said his goals were he wanted to have a family, he wanted to have a good job so he could support that family, and I would be remiss in saying that those goals, which are admirable, he attained. So I always remembered you saying that, Dave, and you attained those goals for sure.
I definitely, I was simple. I was a simple person, and I looked at the Riches, who I admired, and some of the others with Rich Melman, and I said, you guys have done this. This is what I want. Well, what's the best way to do it? I mean, the thing that Rich Melman always told me was, he said, Dave, don't ever pick a job, pick a career. And then you can move in and out of that, and you can reinvent yourself and do different things. I've never forgot that, and I've always stayed with that. I mean, I've been a police officer for 22 years now, and it's been a lot of fun because I've been able to do a lot of different things. And my kids, my oldest, Sammy, just had graduated this last weekend from University of Indiana, and she starts working at Rush Hospital coming up in about a month. And then my other daughter's at the University of Kansas, and she's going to be a school teacher, and I have a son in high school that's doing quite well. So, it's like anything else, along with I've been married 22 years, so like anything else, you just got to work hard at it, So I've had good advice from some people like Rich Massaro and Rich Melman and Tom McCullen and Frank Holland that have given me some good advice on how to be successful.
Dave, you know what? I could sit here and talk to you forever, but we are obviously under some time constraints. So I really appreciate you coming, buddy. It's always great seeing you or hearing from you. And actually, I have a small favor to ask of you later on, and it's a small one, and but I'd appreciate it if you at least entertain the idea. And But it's been great having you here.
No, I appreciate it, and thanks again. This has been a lot of fun. Really enjoyed being with you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Thank you. Thank you
Appreciate
for
it.
coming out. This
David
was
Rule.
this
Thanks,
is-
Dave.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks.
I don't want to tell anybody I wear glasses now.
Yeah, what the heck happened now? He's wearing glasses. When you put those down, I said, "Who else? Did somebody sit here before?" Thanks, man.
Best eyes forever.
Age is a terrible thing to admit. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks,
for
Dave.
coming
You want to
with
sit
us.
here and talk some sports with us?
Sure. I fought it for about a year, and then my wife finally said to me, she goes, "Will you just wear them? Here, just wear them. I know you can't see. You keep doing this." So
Now let me ask you. They're not bifocals, are they?
I don't even know what that means.
Good. You don't want to know.
See, David, we get into the regular part of the show now, where we talk all kinds of different sports. And if you want to sit and participate, that's up to you.
I don't know how much longer we're going to. I know John says go, but we, eventually.
Or do you want
have
to just end it?
Or we eventually. Well, we could at least do one thing. I know.
What did you want to talk about?
Deflategate.
Deflategate. Okay. You want to talk about
$1
Deflategate?
$1 million fine, loss of 2 draft picks, Tom Brady suspended for 4 games, and the 2 Patriot employees, John Jastrzemski and James McNally, may not be reinstated without the approval of the league. I'm still trying to figure out how Belichick got away unscathed.
I'm still trying to figure out why Deflategate is such a big deal.
Is such a big deal.
That would be
That's the other question that I
Of course, I have to
have.
say I'm a big Brady and I'm a big Belichick fan, so obviously I'm prejudiced on the whole thing. But when this first came up, I'm thinking to myself, I guess there could be some advantages to having the ball be a little lighter, but I don't know if What are you saying, Jim? What?
Not a big football guy, but the Patriots had the least fumbles of any team in the league.
That's right.
Well,
That's right. That was a stat I read too.
I've heard that too,
Mm-hmm.
but I honestly, I played some football. I don't put much stock in that. I just don't see where a few, whatever I don't know how much the ball weighs, but you're talking about a few
12
ounces,
and a half ounces.
a few ounces
or what,
difference.
12 pounds or whatever it's supposed to be.
Yeah, let's put it this way: when you're a kid and you're playing, you don't want a ball that's either. You want the ball to be inflated properly. You don't want it overinflated. Don't want it underinflated. I personally don't see the advantage.
Well, what was really kind of funny was the exchange, the Twitter exchange between the 2 clubhouse guys at some point, because they were getting tired of Brady complaining about the ball.
Okay.
They were going to they were going to overinflate it.
Okay. So
Because they were sick of him. They were sick of him. They said, let's turn this into a watermelon.
So what did he want the ball to be underinflated? What was the reason for that?
Better grip.
For a better grip.
Better grip.
Okay.
But they were sick of it. And I think it was finally, the one guy said, give me some money and shoes and we'll do whatever he wants. Yeah. Hand size, sure, it makes a difference.
Okay.
But he said, he says, I'm sick of Brady. It's going to be a watermelon this week.
But I would say this though, I could if they suspended Brady, I can see that. But you know what? The losing draft choices and $1 million fine. Where does all that fit in? I'm not so sure that
I don't
I'm
know.
on
How
board
much
with
is
that.
Robert Kraft worth? How much is a franchise worth? Probably about
You know what bothers me about
$1 billion.
a lot of this type of thing though that's going on, and you know what? It's good that Dave is here because I think about the way he teaches the game of basketball. One of the things that upsets me about the times that we're living in is when I look at kids today, I don't think, again, we say they haven't changed, but parents have. But I would say this, the thing that frustrates me, especially I think for boys, and I can't speak as much for girls, but for boys, I think a lot of that normal competitiveness, our society, all through school and whatnot, tries to knock that out of them because they see it as something that's sort of irritating, aggravating, that's maybe not healthy. You know, when boys maybe they knock each other around, they're playing rough. People, that part of life has sort of been knocked out of them. And I see the whole, I see it when I see teams participating over at the high school. I see there are some guys who are still competitive, but then I see other guys who could be better that aren't because, in my opinion anyway, that competitiveness has been knocked out of them. So it upsets me. when I see-
Everybody gets a ribbon.
Yeah, it upsets me when I see the leagues go bend. I'm not saying Brady shouldn't be punished. If he was cheating, he was cheating. He should be punished. But I think sometimes the leagues go overboard and do. Say if a guy went to like a Ray Rice or Jameis Winston, they've already been tried in court. Now, what does a league or a team have the right to do extra, and affect their livelihood and their job? I'm not saying I agree with the things that these guys did, but once the court rules, the law of the land rules, what right does your employer have to lay it on you even more? I
The
personally
law is
don't like
ruled.
that.
No, I don't like it either.
So I'm not really into that, and so when I think I have a negative reaction when I see the league coming down on anybody anymore, because I sometimes I think they overstep their bounds, to be honest with you.
I've never, they always say, well, there is the code of conduct that they have to sign. It is part of their contract. I'd like to read it. I'd like to know what's in it.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
Thou shalt not.
Yeah, thou shalt not is right.
Thou shalt not do anything, apparently.
Not get caught.
Or at least not get caught. That's right. That's more
Well,
case.
I don't know if we really are shedding any light on this subject at all.
Do
Jim,
we ever-
but,
do we ever shed any light on
We like to
anything?
hear each other talk, though, so that's always.
Do we ever shed
Do you have any
light?
thoughts about this, Dave, at all? I mean, you've competed a lot, and I know you weren't prepared to talk about that, but this whole deal of Deflategate, any thoughts at all?
Yeah, I think, you have ESPN, and then that's the Eastern Seaboard Network, is what they always say, I think.
Eastern.
So I think New England.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
So-
about it. Yeah.
I like New England and I like Brady, but I think that obviously he was caught cheating, and there has to be certain rules, as you said, that something has to be done. But I do believe that they're going a little bit hard here because it is they're not outside of the Eastern Seaboard. They're not well liked.
I always thought when
That's a good
when
point.
Belichick got caught with the videotaping the sidelines, and he got fined the $500,000 and whatever else. The best story I heard was Robert Kraft asking him, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much did this help you? And Belichick looked at him and said 1, and Kraft looked at him and said, well, then you're a putz. I wonder if the same conversation has happened now.
Yeah, well, now it's $1 million.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I don't know, Jim, do you want to wrap this up?
Yeah, no, John says
So
no.
John says keep going?
I got nothing else.
10 minutes?
10 minutes.
Okay.
15 minutes. Oh, John wants to make it come out even. 15
Oh,
minutes.
I see what that's right. You got to come out on the half hour?
We got to come
Okay.
out on the half hour.
Okay.
Matthews, what's on your mind? You're looking like you've got some thought
I
on.
was just wondering, you think that the NFL commissioner is just, because he's kind of slow in the past,
Yeah, well, give it up.
punishments that have gone on, all the bad press, that they're going to take it out on the Patriots to show that he's really doing a good job. I think most people just think that way, because anybody that played softball will know that you press the rules to the max. And and you know the other team is pressing the rules to the max.
Yeah. Goodell has gotten such bad press over a lack of action on other things that happened this year.
It's just, I'm sorry, it's just.
Wait a minute,
seems
Jim.
that way.
Wait, go back a second.
Wait a minute, let's get a picture.
Maybe
We've
my
got
memory.
Matthews on the air.
Maybe my memory is just convenient, but when you say in softball you press the rules to the max, I'm not sure what you're referring to. I'm just.
Maybe for the listeners.
I'm Lily White over here.
Right.
So.
Maybe for the listeners who didn't play 16-inch softball, which is a shame because it is a Chicago game, and it's a game from the neighborhoods, and it's a game that transcends age groups.
Right.
You know,
right.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Definitely.
If you have the best softball players in the world usually had, at least when they were young guys, had girlfriends that played softball too, because that's the only way that they could understand you being out every night playing softball. So you had to go watch their Powder Puff League or whatever the name would be.
Oh, boy.
Because
You're
they would
really-
they would feminize it a little bit for the girls.
Okay.
But some of those games were better than some of the guys' games. So, and I'm saying softball, some of those bats.
Oh, you're talking about illegal bats and whatnot?
Illegal bats, juicing the ball, whatever you want to call it. You spacing the bases,
Doing what? I missed that part, Jim.
What was
did you
that?
say?
spacing the bases.
What is, I don't know what
What's
you're
that?
saying there.
What's that?
Well, if you had an extremely fast team with a Dave on there, after the umpire set up the bases, or a lot of times some of the umpires, you knew them so well, you could set the bases up prior to the game, and nobody's pulling out the tape to measure unless it's a big game or whatever else. Then you could start inching a little ways. So it's sort of like the Chicago White Sox with the infield be tilted in for, Fox and Aparicio. Those
Or
kind of
the
little
or the
things.
baseballs
I-
that they used to keep in the cold storage.
I never, go ahead, Dave, you were going to say something.
That's why I wish I was born in that era, because a little faster.
Well, really?
Dave played with Eddie, and Eddie Zona was a man whose mind never stopped going. The wheels were
That's
going
true.
all the way throughout the game, whether you're up 20 or down by 20. The wheels were going for the next run and the next position, whatever he's thinking. Everybody else played checkers, he played chess. Well, I shouldn't say everybody else. There was a lot of great players. So I just wish I had the memory to name some of the guys so they get recognition, because there's a lot of great ball players out there that the Hall of Fame is only so big. But I like to always say that I help, because I have a lot of splinters on my backside from sitting on that bench, but watching a lot of good players. So I mean, you learn from them. Dave will tell you, and you guys discussed it, that when you are the worst player on the team and the newest player on the team, the way the team accepts you is the biggest difference. That's why I'm hearing about Dave's coaching, which makes, I think Dave's probably prouder of his coaching than he is of playing softball. Because when you do something for another kid, or you get to see their success, that warms you more than anything else, I think.
100% right.
And so when you are on a team with all the great players that Dave has been on with, and you get accepted by those guys, you raise your level of play. They teach you things, you observe things, you get some things just through osmosis sitting next to them. It's a great experience, and I just wish, like Dave said, he wish he could have played 10 years ago. My little experiences in softball, I wish I could have played back in the 1940s or 1950s when softball ruled this town. I mean, that was the big teams from Inland Steel and all that sort of stuff. I mean, that would have been an era that I would have loved to be a part of, even though I'd be sitting on the bench, or picking up the bats, making sure somebody didn't trip, that kind of deal. But go on, I'm sorry.
It's really, I tell you, you're making, when you talk about those teams, one of the biggest compliments I think I ever had in my life was I had some brothers that I coached in Little League football, the Lebecks, and their father, Buck Lebeck, played for Stuart Warner. And Buck would come out to the park once in a while and watch us play, and he'd say, Rich, he says, you could play with us any day. And that was a huge, huge compliment because, Stuart Warner obviously was a huge company and had a great team. And Buck Lebeck was himself a good player. So that was a great compliment to myself. I think the nicer thing for the players today in terms of 16-inch softball is that I don't think there's as many good players. I'll take that back. I think there's a lot of good players. There's less organizers than there were back when we were involved. And that's a drawback for the game. Because I still umpire, I see talent out there, but it's not being put together.
I've seen that for years with all the semi-pro games. I've been
with football.
With football, there's guys who go out and play, but the ability to put the teams together is made a successful
It's-
program.
it makes a difference.
You know, you've met Terry Thomas.
Sure.
And how he's managed to put together a program with the Thunder that's won
Yeah, because he
11,
organized.
11 championships, 2 or 3 national championships.
I mean, you can never discount the importance of Eddie Zollner or a Rich Melman or a Jimmy Lang, who was the Whips top guy, because to put that kind of talent together and not just everybody could see the talent, but to put it together and have it mesh, have it, not have that many problems is a challenge, and it's a great challenge. But I guess going back to what I was going to say, the thing that I think that the modern day players have a little bit of an advantage in is that they're all recognized. I mean, there's not as many fans, but everybody knows who the top players are. Back when we were younger, there were guys who probably could have been top players but never were because there were only so many top teams, and there were so many guys playing softball in every park. There are outstanding players that never played with any of the good teams because they just never, there wasn't room, they were never seen, they were at a park that was, that Eddie Zollner or whoever else was around looking didn't come to. And there were plenty, I remember used to play against a guy, and I never knew his correct name, but they called him Brillo. Probably as good a long ball hitter as I've seen in the game, and he played with the Impalas. And the Impalas, when they would play in the park against us, you would see guys like Willie Masucci, who's a Hall of Famer, Bobby Garippo, who's a Hall of Famer, Vito Maggiorisi, a Hall of Famer. We played against all of those guys. Mike Krolicki, another Hall of Famer. Played against all of those guys. And Brillo played with them and probably batted third or fourth for them, even with all of those players on that team. And his attitude was, even if the big teams called him, I want to play with my friends. I'm not playing with you guys. So there was plenty, and he's not the exception to the rule. He is the rule. So there was a lot of people who just never even had the opportunity to play at a higher level because they just were never seen, or they didn't care to. So,
or their jobs or whatever else
they could
prevented them
definitely,
from doing it.
Definitely.
So softball is a love.
It is. It never gets out of your blood. It stays with you forever. And I remember. I don't think I saw a game after I sort of left the game. I don't think I was back to a big tournament or anything for 10 years. And I went to the Forest Park tournament, and this is probably, 6 or 8 years ago. I walked in, hadn't been to that tournament. I walked up. First, you're seeing all kinds of people. It's like a reunion. First off, and it's like, hey, I'm home. It's almost like you're back home. So it's an interesting thing.
When I played from like 86 to about 2002, and kind of from 86, I'd say, to about 98, we scheduled our lives around softball. So everything we were doing, work or family, and we all know how that could be trying. That's why I think that was a good point. If your wife was involved in some type of athletics at all, you were good to go. You had a big advantage. You had a big advantage, or you had to cut deals with her to do stuff with the kids or with her and such. So, but I think we always kind of just scheduled, our lives, around. We changed our lives for softball, and that was a huge part of what we all did. And I wouldn't change it for the world. Looking back now,
I'm going to get you some extra points, Dave. That softball players' wives are the best wives in the country for what they have to put up with.
Yes.
So, I mean, and they're the most beautiful, too, so that'll get me a couple points in there somewhere.
With somebody.
The only thing I have to say is you don't want them all to show up at a game the same time. I'll never forget a game that stands out in my mind. We're playing, it just was a weekday game at Mount Prospect, and I looked up in the stands, and every one of the guys' wives or I swear every one of their wives or girlfriends were there, and I said, you know what? We're going to get killed today. Because they're all sitting there, and they got something to do after the game, and that's why they're there. And I said, this is like a perfect storm. They all showed up at once. And we were horrendous. I think we were out of there shortly.
You got beat badly,
5
didn't
innings
you?
was about all it took, and we were gone. So
we've had it where some of the guys I know, have gotten married, like they were getting married in the afternoon, and would go play 1 or 2 games in the morning and rush right over there, and yeah, I mean, some of the things.
Dave, I had a good friend, Rick Emmerich, who I played some softball with, and he was getting married, and we were playing in a tournament on a Saturday morning, and his wife got wind of the fact. Now, 2 of us were standing up to his wedding, and she got wind of this, and she was, you can't do, what if you break your leg? You're going to ruin the whole, don't worry, we're not going to break our legs, no problem. And, I can relate to that very well.
That's like me when Dana and I are getting married on June 20th. I said, well, Thunder are playing that night. I got to go be the public address.
That's right.
No, you're not.
Boy.
I wonder if that's where they termed where they got the term bridezilla.
Softball.
Just asking. I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Just the softball. Okay.
All righty. John, we're almost there.
Are we getting about? We can start to wrap it up. All right, it's up to us.
Yeah,
All right.
we'll wrap it up.
We're gonna wrap it up.
We've done enough damage over here.
It's been a fun day for us over here.
Definitely,
We had to thank
definitely.
Stephanie Rybant for putting up with us and sitting here for
half an hour?
Half an hour or so. Dave, thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Mr. Matthews, it's nice to finally get your dulcet tones
Really?
on
I only
the air.
do movies.
And you have a face made for radio. And of course, the doctor of the dials, John DeVita. Thank you, kind sir,
Thanks,
for
John.
taking care of it.
Thanks, John.
And this 90-minute extravaganza coming up tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
It'll be on the air tomorrow, since we're recording this on Tuesday. It'll be on the air on Wednesday. Been a lot of fun for us. We will see you again down the road. Thanks for listening, and we are Taillights.
You have been listening to Armchair Experts on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich from Fanny and Schmo's Coffee Shop in the Eisenhower Library, which is located at 4300 North Oquito Avenue in Harwood Heights, Illinois, on Wednesday, May the 13th, the year of our Lord, 2015, with the WRHS sports announcers Jim Leon and Rich Massaro. We wish to thank the staff and management and Stephanie of Fanny and Schmoes for allowing us to do this broadcast today. This broadcast was directed by John DeVita. Our special thanks to Kevin Zeflik of radio station WRHS FM Norwich and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Shikanda. This program was pre-recorded on Tuesday, May the 12th, the year of our Lord, 2015. Until next time, please be safe and thanks for listening. Have a good day, everyone. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM, Norwich, Illinois.